proceed to test flights. And that's not entirely unexpected. The budget for that particular program was not quite at the level that NASA wanted it to be, and thus they're going to need to take some more time to figure out how that plays into which designs they select, as well as just more time to actually complete the evaluation. So yeah, that has been delayed, but that's okay. I think the one thing that we talk about when we note that the NASA administration is changing, that the one big thing that will likely change is that 2024 landing date for Artemis will not be nearly as committal as it has been in the past, and they're going to focus on making sure they do it right, making sure that they do it in a safe and productive way, but they're not going to worry about doing it super quickly. So I think the sense of urgency might go away a little bit. Hopefully they can keep a reasonable sense of urgency without pushing that hard deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2 more months to evaluate the lunar lander designs. In the grand scheme of things, not a huge deal.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Thomas. I think I would, I might modify it just a little bit, to say, uh, to say that 2024 is still the goal, right? It's the
Oh yes,
aspirational goal that
yes,
NASA is going to try to reach, but it is not a mandated political goal anymore. Um, but it is very much 2024 is possible, unlikely, but possible. They'll still try for it.
yes,
I
exactly.
wouldn't be surprised if we ended in 2025, though, basically.
Right, or even further than that. But
Well, or
yeah,
even
I
further,
think I
yeah,
agree with
depending
you.
on systems and rockets, yes.
Yes. I actually looked at the other day. I was trying to figure out sort of a full manifest of like all
Hmm.
the different launches for Artemis, and we were talking about this in the members Discord the other day too. And I remember I went back, and when SpaceX first proposed Starship as one of the human landing systems, their proposal included several different key milestones, including a uncrewed lunar landing demonstration in 2022. For those keeping track, that's next year. That's not far away.
Right.
And that was at the culmination of. I'm gonna pull up the whole list real quick. We were talking about this not that long ago. I don't think I have to scroll far to find it. Here we go. This is a direct quote from an article I wrote a while ago, but this is from the SpaceX human landing proposal, which says SpaceX plans to conduct a low Earth orbit demonstration of Starship and the Super Heavy booster, a reflight of a Starship vehicle, so fly the same vehicle again, a long duration orbital Starship mission, whatever long duration means, a flight beyond low Earth orbit, and then after all of that, an uncrewed lunar landing demonstration. And that all culminates in 2022. So again, this ties into the fact
It's
that SpaceX wants to fly these
6:30.
Starship vehicles rapidly and quickly, and fly them over and over again. And
Hmm.
that's a huge part of how they plan to demonstrate Starship's reliability. It's just, listen, if we can fly it 100 times in the next 2 years, that gives us a great opportunity to prove its track record. So obviously, maybe you don't need 100; you need a few tens of flights, but still, um, that's part of it. Um, and I think that 2022 deadline might seem aspirational, which means that maybe as the lunar landing date slips, they give SpaceX more time to demonstrate their particular human landing system. Obviously, the other contenders will also have more time to make progress on their designs. Yeah, it should be interesting to see how that plays out. I know we're all looking forward to that selection. Um, I don't want to. I guess I don't want to get into too much of the speculation as to like who we should expect to be picked, but I don't know. We can talk about that if you want. I don't know.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think to longtime listeners of our stream, it's no secret what we said, but yeah, no, there are three companies right now, well, three teams
Right.
competing. There's the national team led by Blue Origin, and that includes Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman. And help me out, Thomas, I can never remember the one that starts with D. I always want to say it's
It's
Draper, isn't
not
it?
Dyna. Yes, it's Dynetics is the
Ah,
one.
I
Dynetics
got it
does
right.
the own lander, but Draper is the
Yes.
one part of national team. Yes.
Okay, I got it right. Yay, that's
You're
a first.
learning. You're learning.
So you all were present when Chris finally got it right. So there's that team. There's SpaceX, who is kind of by themselves.
Yep.
with Starship, and then you have Dynetics. And the sort of prevailing thought is that, at this point we have seen mock-ups from Star Trek. Let me try that again. We've seen mock-ups from SpaceX. Okay, well, there. Hey, name one of these the USS Enterprise, then we'll talk.
Yeah.
um, we've seen mock-ups from SpaceX. In fact, the mock-up of it is sitting right there at Boca Chica. At some point, we can show it to you. We've seen the mock-up from the national team that's been delivered to the Johnson Space Center. Thomas, I do not believe we've seen anything from Dynetics. They did
No,
have a.
Dynetics also has a mock-up. I do not
They do.
remember if it's at Johnson or somewhere else, but they definitely have a
Somewhere
mock-up.
else.
I've seen it.
But they do have a mock-up. Okay, okay. They were kind of the ones that were they were the team that was like, oh wow, like very happy to see them in their interesting design. Maybe that design could be used for something else. Maybe there's a longer term goal for that. But I think a lot of us who are watching this and watching the industry expect the down select to exclude Dynetics and for them to go with the national team and with SpaceX.
I think that does sound like a very likely option. I guess I'll just limit my speculation to be one of those offerings has multiple pieces of flight hardware that have conducted powered flights under the same propulsion systems that will operate their moonlander, and meets the most of the long-term goals that NASA has set for what they want these landers to look like as far as reusability and sustainability. Only one of those companies can say that, and I'll just leave that at that. I personally would be shocked if that team is not selected.
True. Are you thinking that they might only go with one and not down select to two? Because to be fair, they
Here's
haven't
the
said
thing, I wasn't.
down select. They haven't said if it's going to be they're just going to choose one or they're going to choose two.
And for the record, they can also choose 0 if they're not
That's
happy
true.
with any of the company's progress. I don't think they're going to do that, but yeah, originally I was like, oh, well, they'll pick 2. They've learned from commercial cargo, they've learned from commercial crew. You want multiple providers, so they're going to pick 2. It just makes the most sense. But then the budget came out and they were underfunded. And it was pointed out that if they want to pick the national team as one of them, they might only be able to afford the national team on their own, which is a problem. The contrary to that was that they might have enough money for both of the cheaper teams, which is SpaceX and Dynetics. If they want to, they might only be able to pick those two because the Blue Origin-led national team was just so much more expensive. Which is
Oh,
why
interesting.
I think so that adds into the fact of why I would be shocked if SpaceX is not selected. I think if they want to pick 2, I think they would probably like the two ends of the spectrum between how close they can get to that sustainable architecture they want versus how much they can minimize their schedule risk, which is probably more towards the national team. I think if they could pick any two, they would pick those two. I agree with you there. However, if they want to make sure they have 2 providers, they might not be able to afford selecting the national team.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, because at the end of the day, it. Yeah, the budget could. Yeah. Okay. So that'll be interesting. I appreciate that because. Do you also think there's a potential? Let's flip this around.
Sure.
So let's say you don't fund, and this is just a thought experiment. This is not, we're not saying this is reality.
Right.
But let's say under those funding constraints
Speculation
that you
banner.
just
Where's the
set.
wild speculation button?
Exactly. Woo, 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 speculation. So let's say they're operating under those budget constraints, right? And they look at it, and like most things in spaceflight arena, when you're trying to jumpstart things, if you don't select a company to continue forward, that company chooses not to invest its own capital in continuing forward with it.
True.
So that is also not how SpaceX operates, and the Starship program is completely independent of the human lunar lander system. It just so happens that it can benefit it, right? And
Well,
it's well suited to it in that regard. So hear me out. Hear me out.
yep. Okay, I'll wait.
Could part of the decision making process then be, well, if we don't fund SpaceX, they're still going to develop the system anyway because they've been developing it anyway on their own. And maybe there are other things that we can partner with them on to still kind of get there. But then say, but if we don't fund the national team, we don't get it, period. Do you think that could be a factor of saying no to SpaceX and giving it to the company that wouldn't give you a product if it wasn't funded?
There is a historical precedent that NASA or that SpaceX will ditch a program if an external customer does not select it. We saw that happen with Dragon propulsive landing, and we saw that happen with Red Dragon, which I guess was connected to that. So that actually does happen with SpaceX sometimes. But I agree with you on the front of Starship, where Starship's getting developed regardless of if NASA selects it or not. But you've also mentioned NASA has said they cannot afford to not be involved in Starship from the beginning. So I think when NASA looks at the test flights that are happening today, I think they're saying we need to make sure they're part of Human Landing System program so that we can make sure that Starship meets the needs that we want it to reach and how it can support us. Because if they let SpaceX develop it on its own, NASA loses a lot of their say in how exactly the design actually works out. So I think there's a bit of both. I do not think that that reason alone is enough for SpaceX not to be selected for HLS.
In terms of a status update on Starship SN9, we're still waiting for the tank farm activity to spool up, and that will be a sign that they have entered the final countdown for the launch today. Once that happens, it's going to be only about 40 minutes or so until launch. Perhaps a bit more. It depends on if there's going to be built-in holds and whatnot, but any moment now, we could enter that final countdown, and that's going to be the key indication that we're looking to see. Once we see venting from the tank farm at a significant rate, that will tell us if they are going for a launch attempt, which we expect them to do here shortly. Although, as usual, no official information from SpaceX on exactly when they're going to be attempting a launch today, but our understanding is that a launch attempt within the next hour or 90 minutes or so is looking good. So stay tuned, and hopefully we're going to see SN9 lift off the pad here shortly in Boca Chica, Texas.
Micah, how long is today's window should they encounter any more delays between now and our eventual launch target?
The window lasts until 6 p.m., but fingers crossed it's not going to be needed today.
That sounds good. And yeah, like Michael mentioned, we're kind of at the last step before we see fueling activity start to spool up. So we're looking for that. That is the next milestone to look for. So yes, we're going to hopefully see some activity very, very soon. In the meantime, I'm going to go back to our queue because I know we've been trying to answer some questions. We will find some regarding today's flight, or at least his flight attempt, I should say. Don't want to jinx anything. Let's see here. Here's people asking how much fuel would be on board SN9 today. So SN9 is not fully fueled for today's flight. It doesn't need to be. The fuel load is kind of the minimum they need to conduct the flight profile. Obviously with some little safety margins so they don't lose the flight due to fuel exhaustion, but they do not have a full fuel load, and that is part of mitigating the effects of a potential rapid unscheduled disassembly, RUD. If a failure occurs, they want to mitigate the fireball that can result from that. Like we saw that with SN8 too. The explosion on SN8 was relatively little because it had burned all its fuel all the way already. So it's a partial fuel load for SN9 for that reason. It also reduces the weight of the vehicle, which means that the engines can work a little less hard to get the vehicle where it needs to go. So yeah, that kind of answers that question. It's a partial fuel load for SN9. You won't see any full fuel loads for a Starship vehicle until they start going to orbital test flights or flights that literally need all of the propellant on board Starship.
And Thomas, here's a super chat from Jonathan Trantham, who is asking, how will Starship dock to other starships or the ISS?
That depends on which type of docking you're looking for. If you're going to on-orbit refueling for Starship, they actually kind of dock, the two engine sections dock to one another because that's where the fuel lines connect, and that's how you conduct on-orbit refueling. However, if you're docking for the purpose of crew transfer, and that could be between starships or like a Starship docking to Lunar Gateway or to Orion or something like that, they would put the docking port somewhere else. For the landing system, it's in the nose, like on the nose. You could also put it like on the side somewhere and kind of dock shuttle style, if you would. But we haven't seen kind of other designs for that yet. So it depends on what purpose you are docking for. Fueling, it's definitely that engine section docking.
And another super chat here. Thanks so much with $5 asking or saying, bearing in mind ownership issues with the two gas wells, do you ever think that Phobos or Deimos could be used to mine seafloor methane nodules? I don't believe they will have any of their mining equipment as part of their use for SpaceX, correct?
I do not believe there are plans to use the oil rigs for anything other than Starship operations, which includes, launches and or landings. I do not believe they're going to be using those rigs for fuel production.
Gotcha. It's just looking for a couple of other questions in here.
Sure. And again, folks, we're still waiting for signs of fueling to be started. The signs we're kind of looking for are a bunch of vapors from the tank area, all those small vertical and horizontal tanks. That's where all the commodities for Starship are held, including the liquid methane and liquid oxygen. And when those systems spool up, you'll see a lot of vapors in the area, and that gives us a sign that fueling has started. Again, this is a test program. We do not receive official information from SpaceX as far as when the launch will actually occur, or where they are in the countdown. So we are standing by for some signs of more activity.
Yeah, and Josiah is asking, has there been any sign of the clamshell door being manufactured? Will this be a major build or design challenge, and how soon might we see one?
So that's asking about the payload door, like the payload bay door for Starship, the variant of Starship that will carry satellites and things like that. We have not seen any sign of that yet. Don't even know if that'll be something that gets built in Boca Chica, or if that's something they can like ship in from Hawthorne, because they do build some components out there. Yeah, I don't know how long we're gonna see that. I mean, the very first Starship to orbit might not even have a payload on board. It might be a launch and reentry test rather than a try to deploy a payload. But either for the first orbital flight or for shortly thereafter, they're going to want to start using those orbital test flights to definitely deploy some Starlink satellites. That'll be a great way for them to prove out that
It's
system.
6:45.
So by then, we will have to see a sign of that payload bay door and that sort of payload section being developed and built.
Gotcha. And secret Russian Mars base with a $25 super chat, asking, would a crewed Starship go through the same landing maneuvers we're seeing in this type of a test?
Yes, this is the same maneuver planned for crewed landings, including, SpaceX has shown actually some animations of this maneuver being conducted in the Martian atmosphere, which is interesting because Mars's atmosphere is so much thinner. The belly flop is actually less dramatic because it happens way earlier in the landing. Your terminal velocity is just higher when the air is less dense, and thus your landing burn lasts a little longer. But yeah, even the crew vehicles will do that sort of flip maneuver, and I think I would be interested to see the hard numbers on it. The landing maneuver itself, yes, it looks sort of dramatic, but you have to remember how big the vehicle is. The G-forces and the sort of discomfort of that short maneuver, I think, are overestimated a little bit. I think it might be more similar to turning in an airplane or something. Of course, rocket launches tend to have a little bit higher G tolerance anyway. Astronauts are trained to operate in high G environments. And you can also work to sacrifice some of your vehicle's performance by doing a more gradual flip and a longer landing burn to mitigate that if you need to. So they can manage the sort of loads that a crew would experience during that landing maneuver, but it is still going to be that same maneuver.
Gotcha. And sort of landing maneuver. Sorry. Oh, sorry, I lost it. So a good question here. So we're on SN9 flying today, and SN10 is on the pad, on the neighboring pad with it there. How many serials do you think it will take till we have a final version of Starship? Which is a good question, and I don't. I'm not sure there will be a final version of Starship in some regards. You might end up with certain designs that get locked because, like, if it ends up getting used for different things for NASA, they might want, okay, this is our design that we've approved. But it's, yeah, I don't know if we'll ever get to like a finalized design because they might just keep tweaking them.
Right.
Honestly. Yeah.
I mean, we saw that with the Falcon 9 family. They continuously upgraded that vehicle until they finally reached this current Block 5 configuration, which is now sort of frozen, and they're not really tweaking that as much. I think Starship will undergo a similar process. At some point, they will reach some sort of kind of frozen configuration that is working well, meets the goals of that program, and they're going to use operationally, and that's very useful for when you're trying to certify those vehicles for NASA missions and things like that. But I think they'll then follow that on with, all right, time to scale it up and make a new version of Starship while keeping this sort of older operational vehicle that's frozen, that's designed as frozen. So I think, like you said, it'll be the only time we might see a final version of Starship is when SpaceX wants to replace it with something else entirely.
When they build warp drive.
Yeah. So that's a good point. SpaceX likes to continuously iterate, as demonstrated by the fact that they have 2 test vehicles on the pad at the same time right now. Pirate boat.
I was trying. I'm gonna catch one of those boats one of these times. Like on one monitor, I got Jack on like a +1 second, and so I see a. Oh, hey. Oh, there you go. See, I just leave it on the camera. And I see a boat out of the corner of my eye, and I try to switch to it really quickly, just to, I don't know, context or whatever. But, anyways, back to you.
I think that wraps up the answer to my question. So.
Yeah, and another question here from Cody, who is asking, why is the header tank for SN9 pressurized with precious helium and not another gas like nitrogen or... well, let's just leave it at nitrogen, because if you tried to pressurize the oxygen header tank with methane, you'd get an explosion.
Well, no, so they're pressurizing the methane header tank with methane, because that's the one that caused an issue on SN8 due to a pressure issue. So they are talking about the methane header. That's what I meant.
Yeah, helium is being used to pressurize the methane tank.
That one, what Michael said. And so, yeah, the reason they're doing that is, like you said, they were trying to pressurize it with its own gas, autogeneous pressurization using gaseous methane. However, it had a problem during the SN8 flight. SpaceX is working towards a long-term solution for that, but their interim solution for SN9 is helium. And I believe the choice for helium is centered around the fact that helium is the lightest of the gases available to do something like that. Nitrogen is a heavier gas, so in the interest of weight savings, they likely chose helium for that reason.
Gotcha. Another question here. This goes back to the question about the like alligator hinge door for the payload version of Starship. Alex was asking, Elon said big changes for SN9, so could that be a cargo door on SN9? I think a larger question wrapped within that question is, do we know what the changes are yet for SN15?
Right, so for SN15, not SN9. That's
sorry, I realized I said it wrong. Yeah. SN15.
I doubt it. I think SN15 is gonna be more along the lines of taking the lessons they've learned from SN8, SN9, etc. Not just as far as flight, but also as far as manufacturing methods. I think the only thing we've confirmed is thinner stainless steel down to 3 mm instead of 4, which is part of sort of optimizing the weight of the vehicle. But other than that, I don't think we have any confirmed changes. There's been speculation that it could be the first vehicle with a full heat shield complement. It could feature a new landing leg design because they know that they're not super happy with the current design, that they want to upgrade that a little bit. So there's that possibility, but yeah, we don't really have a firm idea. I suppose they could start testing payload doors or things like that. I think that's more likely to come a little bit later when they're ready to start going to orbit.
Yeah, So here's a question. It's one that we get quite often, Thomas. Rokfallen is asking, does Starship have enough fuel or thrust to reach an orbital altitude on its own, or does it require the Super Heavy booster?
I guess I'll answer this. This is one of the questions that I don't mind answering the same questions over and over again because I know they're very common questions that a lot of people have. This one's, I'm still going to answer it, but there's a myth that keeps persisting. Starship can only get to orbit on its own if you don't put any payload on board and remove all of its ability to be recovered and re-enter and land. So that will never happen. Needs the Super Heavy booster for operational flights from Earth.
There you got it.
And hey, y'all, real quick, John back in the studio here. One of the things we've been working on were some technical issues with the store. I don't know if there were people around this morning when we had like 30,000 people watching and we mentioned the store and it crashed. So if you were trying to get one of these t-shirts, either the 2 Starship Texas Tank Watcher design or the WinHop design, we were doing 10% off on those today, but we are not putting a clickable link into chat because that will destroy the store. What you need to do is go to nasaspaceflight.com/shop. And if you go there today only while this live stream is going on, you can get 10% off some of that merch from the store. We've got the new updated Texas Tank Watchers design with the 2 starships next to each other. We've got the WinHop. And I believe after SN9 flies, we are going to remove the single starship design. So we sort of update our skyline silhouette designs based on what's going on. And we had the old regular tank, and then we went to the single starship, and now we've got the 2 starship design. So if you're interested in getting one of those things, try nasaspaceflight.com/shop. Did it crash again?
Probably.
Oh no. Really? All right, well, they said to go ahead and try it. They said go ahead, don't put a clickable link in and have people just type it in. So now we have additional experimental data. Apparently the store crashes harder than SN8 every time we tell people it is. So anyways, well, be patient, maybe refresh in a little bit, just not everybody at once, or form an orderly queue and stuff. It's not that the entire site is down, it's just that there's too many of you who are trying to go all at the same time. Even without a clickable link, it still crashed. You have to be kidding me. Okay, anyways, well, like I said, now we have more experimental information on that. So, good try. We will continue on with the rest of the broadcast. Hoping we get a flight from SN9 today.
I really hope so too, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this tank farm activity spool up, so we'll have a good sign that we're getting close. That is what we're still waiting for right now.
Indeed. Let me scroll through and... Oh, here's a good one. It comes from Matt with a $10 super chat. Really good question. So we've seen delays with wind here on Earth. How would SpaceX handle this issue landing or launching on Mars? With that said, how could SpaceX launch in heavier winds to launch more often? That's a great question. What do you do if you launch, you're on your way to Mars, and and all of a sudden, oh no, 1 month before you get there, dust storm. What do you do?
That is a very good point. Part of it is just designing the vehicle to deal with it. Keep in mind that storms on Mars, while yes, can pose factors like this, because Mars's atmosphere is so thin, they're actually usually less powerful than the stronger winds you'll see here on Earth. So usually, if you're capable of launching from Earth, you're pretty much safe to land on Mars or launch from Mars. But you know, that's something that you have to consider. So if you see, they'll look at what's the worst possible conditions that can come up at a Mars landing site, especially because once you're on that interplanetary trajectory, you can't really change when you're going to land. You can say, oh, we'll just land tomorrow instead, because you're on a interplanetary transfer trajectory that's going to hit Mars when it hits Mars. So there, you have to deal with that, but they can design that into the vehicle and just design it to be strong enough to handle, you know, wind shear, give it enough control authority to fight the winds, and have the propellant margin needed because of the just the different fuel requirements as far as landing in different conditions.
Yes. Yeah, I think the other context that I'll add to that is the Mars exploration rovers Spirit and Opportunity, one of which survived one of the worst dust storms.
Here we go. We have entered the countdown.
Oh yeah, the recondenser's on.
And I'm going... So the order between the recondenser and the tank farm starting up first seems to always fluctuate back and forth, so I will...
Every time Michael updates the overlay, they switch it.
So y'all, you see right there, you see the 3 tanks in the foreground, and you see the vapors coming from behind the tanks. That's coming from an area we call the recondenser, and we've spent literally hundreds of hours watching these, and that is a very good indication that SpaceX is beginning the count here. That is exactly what you want to see when you're coming up on a T-0. Hopefully the tank farm, the rest of the tank farm continues to spool up a little bit here, but that is exactly what we wanted to see. Be on the lookout for Starship next. Maybe we'll get some more vapors coming off the tank farm. Yay, vapors on the tank farm, whatever. But be looking out for Starship, because when they start putting propellant into Starship, we'll start seeing vents from Starship itself. And we're looking at SN9
It's 7 o'clock.
today. SN9 is the Starship on the right-hand side. It's the one with the flaps extended. Not the one in the middle of the screen, but SN9, the one that's supposed to fly, is on Pad B. Pad B is on the right-hand side, and be looking over there for some vapors to start to come off Starship, maybe some vents on the side or vapors cascading down from the bottom of the thing where the skirt is. But that is an absolutely good sign. Hopefully it wasn't super short-lived. Nope, okay, good. Yes, there's more. Thank you. Thank you, Recondenser. But that is exactly what we've been waiting for. Sometimes that indicates we are under an hour away from a potential T0, but we'll continue to watch the other things. We need more data points to come in, but that is a very good sign for a flight today.
Someone open a spreadsheet.
Yeah, actually, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I was gonna...
I'm frantically typing right now, asking what the average is. There are literally spreadsheets that describe all this. SpaceX doesn't tell us officially, but we've seen it happen so many times. We know where they are in the count based on which little valve opens where. So we'll get that exact information.
This is exactly what we refer to as roadside rocket science, if you've heard that term on here before.
Yes. Another... Oh, wait, I can't mention that. There's a shirt that has that on it. Anyways, all of these are good signs. So here we go. From the spreadsheets, the keeper of the spreadsheet is whispering in my ear over here, and the average time from a static fire or a potential T0 from the time we see this right here can be 35 minutes. So not exactly sure. It's always open to flux. It's an experimental program. They may have holds or something like that. But based on what we've seen in the past, it can be 35 minutes from the time we see this right here, that recondenser firing up, to the time they get a potential T0. No promises. No promises, because it is an experimental program. We will see. SpaceX will launch when they're ready to launch, and if they're ready to launch. Look at this from the other angle, some more tank farm activity.
Once
tough
again,
A little bit, yeah.
But it's there, yeah. Look at that.
Oh, there you go. Look at that. It's spooling up.
We'll update our timeline to tank farm activity. Next up is propellant loading.
These are all good signs. Again, SN9 has the FAA clearance. They got their paperwork done. FAA is fine with them flying today, and we are hoping that we see a flight of SN9 coming up here now shortly. Now that we've got, look at all that activity coming from those vents at the back of the tank farm here. That is all exactly what we want to see. 131,000 people watching right now. That's almost half the number we have subbed to the channel.
Is that good?
I don't know if that's good. I wonder how many people watching right now are not subbed to the channel, and what would happen if they all click subscribe all of a sudden? Like, how many new subscriptions would we have on the channel? I mean, one way or the other, we're not going anywhere. Look at that tank farm activity now. Let's see here. Yep, you can see it in the background of the tank farm here as well. So again, watch the Starship on the right. We're watching for venting from the Starship on the right, because the next thing in line here is propellant loading, where they actually are putting propellant into the vehicle. Look at everybody checking in, subbed. Is everybody subbed? All right, if you're not subbed, say you're not subbed, and give me a one-paragraph essay why you're not subbed to NASA spaceflight. I'm kidding. Please don't put that in the chat. There's already too many people.
And 2 p.m. Central Time is the approximate T0 that I've been hearing.
That would align with the timeline that we've seen some ground equipment spooling up, so... And because this is a test program, they have the luxury of being able to sort of target nice round target times. It's not like a ISS launch window where you say, oh, you know, it's going to be like 12:46 and 30 seconds or something like that. You know, they can go towards nice round top of the hour launch time. So hopefully 2 p.m. local is just under 40 minutes away.
And we're making sure all the other cameras are operated and ready to go. Michael, if you need anything, let me know.
It looks like I have the wrong date on the countdown clock. Only 130,000 people watching that, so I apologize. But...
What happened? T plus 191 days?
Yeah, SN9 actually flew and landed back on the launch mount. You missed it. It was 191 hours ago.
It was a retrograde orbit, and it went so fast that it turned time. It worked that way. That's not a thing.
We're working on it, shit.
I had the wrong date entered, but it should correct itself in a second here. It's taking a while to correct itself because my servers are getting absolutely slammed right now, but...
And y'all, the super chats, I mean, the super chats continue to roll in. Memberships, Draga, Carol, thank you so much. There's no way that we can read all of these. It's just not even possible. We can spend the entire stream reading super chats, and it's just not a thing. But Cruiser Frank, gentlemen, thank you for everything you do. We appreciate you. I know there's questions in here. There's no way we can get through everything, though. So many new members. Just across the board. Hello from the UK. Thanks for the hours of great coverage. James Allen, appreciate you. Just everything across the board. Hello from New Hampshire. Daft Panther. Just everybody who's put super chats in. I apologize. There's just no way that we can read every single thing. Did we just get... Wait, how many... What do you mean? Did we gain 5,000 subs because we mentioned... We just hit 280,000 subs?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That sounds about right.
With the way things are going today, that just sounds about right.
Yeah, 137,000 people watching. I wonder if it's possible for this channel to break 300,000 subs today. That's insanity. It's a good thing that YouTube doesn't crash when people click that button. Again, thank y'all so much. We have a lot of fun with these broadcasts, and we're glad that you're here with us to share it. We've got cameras all over Boca Chica and South Padre Island. Hopefully, half the cameras stay alive. Like our plan for camera coverage of Starship activities is just throw so many cameras at it and hope that some of the cameras stay alive. So that is our plan here. I think we've got 5 planned total, and I've got more down in the garage. I have like an assembly line of robotic cameras in my garage that I need to put together because we're able to get all this equipment due to y'all's support. We wouldn't be able to do it without y'all. So I know that AT&T and Verizon love us when we pay our data bill every month, but it means that we get to share this with people all over the world. So thank you so much for showing up. Sub into the channel if that's what you've done. If you weren't sub before and you like these sorts of streams, make sure you get subscribed. And this is the sort of thing we love to share here at NASA Spaceflight with people everywhere. Whew.
Someone's gonna like rename it. I know we say we're tank watchers, but someone's gonna say we're a bunch of server crashers or something.
The Texas server crashers?
Something like that.
Starship. It looks like Starship is venting, so we're going to go up to propellant loading.
Is
I'm
it?
going to
There is.
zoom in and give us a tighter shot.
Can you get it from the other angle?
Yeah, we can try both.
Okay.
So you can see there on the aft skirt, it is venting.
Yes. So
Again, we're looking at the Starship on the right to avoid that confusion.
The haze makes it a little bit difficult. It's tough here at the middle in the middle of the day, but there are some vapors coming from the bottom of SN9 as expected. That's what we would expect. That means that they're starting to put those cryogenic liquids into the Starship, and you can literally tell something's gone through pipes over to the Starship, up into the tanks of the Starship, because you can see that venting. Let's try it from this angle. The haze is tough. The haze is absolutely tough.
We do have more zoom, but I'm not sure it's going to be better with that haze.
Yeah, it's just going to be totally hazed out, you know? So all of these are fantastic signs. This is what we want to see. Again, FAA clearance has come through for Starship SN. I almost just said the wrong Starship. SN9. Right. What a problem to have, though. Can you imagine that we would have had trouble saying,
Right.
well, Starship is cleared to launch, and like, which Starship is cleared to launch? Oh, it looks like we may shortly have another camera online here as well. So Tom, if you could take it away a little bit, I'm going to work to get this other camera up and running.
Yeah, sure. So just a reminder, we are now into propellant loading operations, and we have a possible T0 of 2 o'clock p.m. Central Time, which is just over half an hour from now. We're going to look for more venting to come from the Starship vehicle as they continue propellant loading. Again, they're loading liquid methane and liquid oxygen into the vehicle. And then we will see an engine chill milestone where we see a lot of vapors from the aft of the vehicle. Just like they do for Falcon 9 flights, it's actually the exact same process. They flow a little bit of liquid oxygen through the engine plumbing before engine ignition. And again, we're looking for a launch possibly around 2 p.m. local time. Again, there's a chance they could have holds along the way and things like that, so we're going to keep looking at it, and we'll adjust that countdown clock if we need to there. You can see that venting on Starship is becoming a lot more prevalent. So the Starship's sort of coming to life here in Texas here, and we are hopefully getting very close to a launch attempt now. Today's flight is to 10 kilometers, a very similar flight profile to SN8. What we'll expect to see is all 3 of the Raptor engines start up for initial liftoff and then sequentially shut down one after the other to control the acceleration of the vehicle on the way up. Once it reaches its apogee, it'll shut down the 3rd and final engine and reorient into its belly flop position. And then this is where we hope things change from SN8. We hope that when that belly flop is complete and that landing burn starts, it flips vertical and the engines continue to operate perfectly. That header tank issue is hopefully solved, and we'll see, hopefully, just maybe, the first propulsive landing of a full-scale Starship prototype. But again, we got a lot of things to go before then. Right now, we are looking at propellant loading operations, which are underway.
Yeah, obviously, you can see right there, like we said, you'd know whenever there were propellants on the Starship, and especially from this angle, it's really obvious. That's the first vent we usually see. We're going to be looking next for, it's labeled over in the list as engine chill. We call it tri-vent. So there are 3 vents that are equilaterally sort of spread around the base of the Starship, one for each engine, we think, because there's 3 Raptors up underneath the skirt. And the next thing we're going to be looking for is tri-vent. And when we get down to tri-vent, that's going to put us just over 10 minutes from launch. So if everything's going according to plan, again, experimental program, no exact published T0, we're just going by what we can see. We expect to see that tri-vent here coming up in less than 20 minutes. And this is when things really start happening. This is when things start to cascade. It does not take long for SpaceX to get going. They have been practicing this over and over and over to make sure that the teams are ready to go, the equipment was ready to go. So when it's time to go, it's going to happen quickly. Thank you all again so much for watching us here as we stand by for flight. We did get that T-0 up in the upper left-hand corner. Again, that's an estimated T0. It's not exact. It's not exact, but that is the estimated T0 based on what we're observing, and we will dial that in as we observe new things. Don't get nervous. No, it's fine. Everybody watch. We're good.
Yeah, let's set the stakes again really quick, because remember, this is still a test program. When we say we're hoping that SN9 will be the first vehicle to land successfully, that's not the same as we're expecting SN9 to be the first vehicle to land successfully. They're still learning a lot, and they've only got 1 flight under their belt, so it's possible that a problem with the vehicle, a small design issue that they're going to need to address later on, didn't come up during the SN8 flight, but could show itself on this flight. It's possible that SN9 doesn't get as far as SN8 did. It could even have a problem during ascent or earlier on in the descent. So keep that in mind, and if that happens, that's okay. Every flight they conduct is in the name of data collection and learning more about how this vehicle needs to be designed and getting it ready to become an operational vehicle. When we look at an operational rocket launch, then yes, you're expecting success, and if a failure occurs, that's a major setback. Here, that's not the case. A failure is not a setback. Obviously, the most progress they can make is a complete flight profile that's a complete success. However, they still make progress even by just having the test flight. Heck, even by just fueling the vehicle, they get more data on this brand new vehicle, and that helps them advance their development program. But to set the stakes, it's okay if it goes wrong. It's better if it doesn't. So we're all going to be hopeful, but just keep that in mind and don't worry too much if things don't go quite to plan. It's all in the name of developing this brand new vehicle.
Absolutely. Whew. This is when it gets real. I mean, Starship's venting. The clock's under 30 minutes. Like,
I've always said that once you see a spacecraft vehicle venting, that's when the adrenaline starts kicking in, because you know the vehicle's coming to life. So yes.
And
absolutely.
I will just point out, this is a vent that we have not really seen before. So they might be in a hole of some sort right now, managing pressure. I don't know for sure.
What's different about this vent than the ones we've seen otherwise there, Michael?
There should be it's usually a smaller vent, more in the center, and then when the engine chill starts, we'll see 3 very high.
It's 7:15.
A constant vent like this is not something we've seen before.
Gotcha. Well, we'll definitely keep an eye on it.
Until we see another indication like the methane vent or the tri-vent, I'm going to pull our timer, as I am not seeing the normal countdown sequence that we've seen with all the dress rehearsals and static flyer tests so far. I did hear a bit ago that 2 p.m. was the target, but with the nature of testing, SpaceX is constantly changing the timelines and making sure everything is ready to go. It's very fluid, so expect the schedules to change throughout the day, and we'll know when the launch is going to happen, exactly when the launch happens.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
It'll launch when it launches.
Launch when it launches. And also, y'all, we've got Mary's camera online now. Over there, she's at a safe location, but another different angle that we haven't seen yet. There is Starship SN9 on the, it's still going to be the right? Yes, on the right, and then a Starship SN10 on the left. So this is important. We have Mary and Jack at 2 different angles. and they are out there to track the flight. So it's one thing, we can certainly try to track it with the robots, the cell signal. Oh, my ping, I can't hit the shot because my ping is not working, if you've ever played any video games. But both Jack and Mary are out there to track it themselves, like human hands on cameras on tripods, to make sure that we get fantastic video. And Mary's camera here is online now. Thank you so much to Mary for rolling out. The heat haze is going to be a little difficult here because this is a crude camera. There's a human being operating this camera, and I don't care what sort of footage we would get, we're not going to endanger Mary by putting her in some place that could potentially not be safe. Also, we don't want to scrub the launch by being inside of an area that's not safe. And then they say, oh, hold, cancel everything. This isn't great because there's somebody in there. And guess what? It's our fault. No, we don't want that at all. So there will be a little bit of haze on these longer cameras. The good news is that when Starship takes off, it goes up. And instead of looking across this water and getting that haze, it'll become clearer the higher it goes in the sky. But we will have Mary's camera here at yet another angle as we continue to cover Starship SN9, which is cleared for flight here potentially quickly. Like Michael was saying, we've got a different vent. We didn't exactly expect that one vent, but we're going to keep watching what's going on and share with you, hopefully, a flight coming up shortly. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us here today.
That vent stopped now, and this is more what we would expect to see, which is not much venting on the vehicle right now. So I'm not sure if that's a good sign or not, but we definitely have not seen a depressed vent, so they're in a hold. In the worst case scenario, they're in a hold right now. In the best case scenario, they have resumed the count. I'm not sure which one it is, but based on when we saw the recondenser turn on, it has taken longer than expected, so presumably they may have entered a hold for some amount of time, and hopefully we'll get more information soon.
Yep. Sounds good. Again, y'all, there's no exact schedule to this. We can't tell you that it's happening at any specific exact time. SpaceX doesn't publish that. They just close down the roads and the airspace and get the appropriate paperwork and say that it's going to launch in this window, but we will continue watching what's going on. This is all good. The pad is clear. The village is evacuated. Everything's looking good. So let's hope that we get a flight of SN9. Whew. Thomas, Michael, do you think they're going to go straight to the tri-vent? Do you think this is a new procedure they're testing? Do we think that there's some sort of hiccup where they're maintaining temperatures or something like that? Like, what are y'all's guesses on what's going on? We still have Chris, too, right? Chris is still here, too.
Yeah.
I think my sort of take on this is going to be, remember, this vehicle has, whether SpaceX planned to or not, been fueled and defueled over and over again. So they've got a lot of practice with at least this particular vehicle, as well as just the Starship vehicles overall, as far as how to conduct these countdowns. Hopefully that means the operations will go relatively smoothly. Like Michael said, some indication that they might have had a brief hold or something like that. So we're going to have to wait and see exactly what's going on. But I would be cautiously optimistic that they should have this sort of fueling operation nailed down at this point, and that hopefully that means we won't have too much of any delays once the countdown is started.
And I'm working with Mary here. I think there may be like a twig or something waving in front of her camera on occasion. So I'm trying to work with Mary to see what's going on with the twig. The twig won't be a massive problem though once it launches, but.
Michael, any experience with twigs in front of cameras?
Be quiet, don't talk. Joss, can we mute Thomas?
Good. How many super chats you got?
Hey, I get super chats that say Thomas Fan Club on it, and I feel like
yes. Again, y'all, we're watching what's going on. We saw the venting from SN9, and the venting stopped. We're going to need to observe some more information here. We need to see if are they going to go for engine chill with the 3 different vents, or is the process changed up a little bit? No exact timeline published, and they may be holding here as they work on the vehicle, work on the range, something. But we're going to keep watching. This is definitely go time, because look at that tank farm go. right. We don't know exactly what's going to happen here, y'all. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but they are trying to fly SN9. The landing pad is actually just behind it from this perspective. If we switch over to the beach angle, there's the angle from the beach. We'll actually have to pull this camera back. It'll have to zoom out some whenever it is time for launch so that it can catch the launch and the landing. But we're going to be trying a couple different things. We're going to try for some fixed shots, and we're going to try for some tracking shots. We've got one tracking robot, two fixed robots, and two tracking camera operators out there. Mary and Jack are going to go for the track, and both of them did a fantastic job last time for the flying Starship, doing those wacky non-rocket maneuvers, sort of odd maneuvers for a rocket. But we are trying a couple different things, and we'll back off some of these cameras and zoom in some of these cameras and hope that they all stay live. Whew.
We like to think that the SN8 flight was just camera tracking practice.
Well, if that was practice, what do we win?
Yeah.
Fantastic footage. They did a fantastic.
Yeah.
So that was the first launch Mary had tracked.
That's true.
Yeah.
You ever tracked a launch before? You're like, what's it going to do? How fast is it going to go? Like, you just don't know. And Mary kept SN8 in frame just about the entire time. Just an absolutely fantastic job tracking that. And then Jack over from South Padre did an absolutely fantastic job last time as well. So if I had to guess, we seem to be holding right now.
Yeah, there's definitely some sort of issue or item being worked. We would have expected to see more activity by this point, which is not necessarily a terrible sign. This is a test flight. They're going to be super conservative. And they have, if they were to have to abort this countdown sequence, they are capable of recycling. So even if we see a depress vent, they could still, depress the vehicle and then pick up the countdown again. So as long as it's not a serious issue that's being worked, they still have plenty of time in the window to launch today. So I would not be overly concerned with what you're seeing right now.
Again, experimental program, there's all sorts of things they have to do, and it's actually really difficult to keep the fuels at the right temperature. The cryogenic liquids that they use, literally liquid oxygen and liquid methane, neither of those gases because they like to be gas normally, and in order to get them down into the liquid state, you've got to compress them and get them super cold, well below zero, in order to get them liquid. And you do that so that you can pump them into the rocket engine more effectively and have more mass. When they're in liquid state, they're sort of condensed down, right? So you're looking for energy, and the energy is stored in those no, methane is not an element. In those components, chemicals, I don't know. Anyways, molecules. And so you down. I was trying to. I don't know. I wanted to say it right.
Molecules of methane, right?
Yeah,
condensing things down, right? Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I think I got it right. So it is very difficult to keep them at the right temperature, both inside the rocket and in the piping and the tank farm and that sort of stuff. So one of the challenges here, you get the sun trying to heat things up, literally trying to boil them off, and SpaceX always having to manage that. So it is not a cakewalk to get this done. You think like, oh, just pump it in and go, right? That's why the Falcon 9 uses RP1, right? Kerosene. But don't they cool that down as well?
Yeah, so the Falcon 9s do use chilled kerosene, but kerosene is one of those propellants that you don't necessarily have to chill down. So its ambient form is used in the Atlas V and in the Soyuzes as well.
Gotcha. It normally it's normally a liquid at normal temperatures and pressures outside, so it's a little bit easier to deal with. But they actually try to densify that as well, right?
Yeah. Which turns it into a cryogenic, just a little bit. And I mean, when you start densifying oxygen, right, to keep the mixture ratios right, to pack enough into your tanks, you get a little more bang for your buck if you get. Wow, that I don't know why I'm having trouble speaking today. Great day for a live stream.
Starship has that effect on people. It's okay.
Yeah, yes, it does, definitely.
Because it's like, mass that you have to carry.
Precisely. But no. Yeah, that's why you would do it.
All right. Again, folks, it looks like we're in a hold here. We don't have an exact T-0 for this, but we did see it venting from Starship SN9. SN9 is the one on the right. I'm going to keep repeating that SN9 is the one on the right. That's the Starship we're looking at, and it looks like they went into a bit of a hole.
Yeah, it's the one with the flaps extended for flight. You can see SN10 still has those flaps folded away because it's not flying today. At least not intentionally. Something would have to go very dramatically wrong for SN10 to take flight.
Yeah.
And we are working on confirming the reason for the hold. As soon as we have information, we will obviously relay that to you. But we do for sure believe they at least were holding at one point. There's not really any clear indication we're going to get when they resume the countdown, other than at some point we should see one of the upcoming steps, such as the methane vent or the engine chill vent start, but we are continuing to monitor the situation.
Yeah, again, y'all, we're looking all over Boca Chica and South Padre, but these are all going in the right direction. We know that the pad is clear. We know the village is evacuated. We know that they've got that paperwork to fly. I know a lot of you are like, why do you keep saying the same thing over and over again? Well, there's 174,000 people here. Not all of you were here a little bit ago. So if I try to repeat what I say on occasion, it's so that new people coming in wondering, what's going on? What's the status? Is it launching? Are they both launching? They're not both launching. There's only one landing pad. So you can't launch both of them unless you're going to throw one away, and that's sort of not SpaceX's deal. It's not how they roll.
And we do have an update of some sort. Jack reports that there is a sheriff deputy near the jetty across the water from South Padre Island, so that is an indication that they may be looking for a range violator, although we don't know for sure, but there should not be any people there for flight, so the sheriff is currently making sure the area is clear. This is a private range. There's no government working on it, so it's up to SpaceX and the local deputies to make sure the area is clear before they go for this launch.
Right. Again, it's very important that they clear out the range. You can't have anybody driving by with kayaks or anything like that. It's not even for a test, but especially for the launch. Everybody wants to say, okay, well, it's going to be fine. You know, it'll land on the pad or it'll get close or the flight termination system will handle it. But it's just not the sort of thing that you even play around with. You don't want human beings anywhere on the range because it's a lot of energy stored in these rockets, especially once you get them up off the ground. So we're continuing to monitor the situation there, and hopefully we are all good to go. Yeah, and look at this. We've actually got from Mary's camera really quickly, that looks like that is sheriff's deputy vehicle for Cameron County down there, and it is driving out across the flats. So I don't know if they are looking for someone or what the deal with that is, but Mary is tracking that sheriff's deputy vehicle. And if there are sheriff's deputies driving, that sheriff's deputy is a long way away.
It's 7:30.
Hey, she's got this way zoomed in, and I am wondering what they are out there looking for.
And it looks like Mary's getting some good practice for the hop of that truck as a deputy, so that's cool.
Yeah. I think we've got, I tried this real quick, but I'll do this again. And it looks like there's actually a deputy out on the jetty as well. Let me see if I can get that feed. Here it is. So that is across the ship channel. Again, that's one of those sheriff's deputy vehicles out there, but that is on the far side. And it's not actively cruising around. It almost looks like it's just there. But I don't see anyone outside of it looking around or anything like that. But again, there are sheriff's deputies operating around the area, making sure that all of that is cleared out. So we'll keep an eye on it. Again, no official word. Look at this. Look at the tank farm sort of. The winds aren't that high right now. It's just sort of hanging on the ground. Oh, look at this. Wait a second. All right. I'm going to go ahead with this, okay? This is Mary's camera, and it looks like the deputy vehicle has found another vehicle out there. I don't know if that is potentially a truck. The haze is getting us a little bit there, but you can see the lights of the sheriff's vehicle, and Mary has eyes on this. Again, not exactly sure what that is. Looks like they may have it moving now. Definitely looks like a truck. And they might have got shooed away there. There was something that the sheriff's got eyes on out there and went out to resolve it, looks like, y'all.
So good job by the teams for finding that and clearing the range.
Again, we've talked about this in the past. I mean, Thomas and Chris, we've talked about how Cape Canaveral and the Space Coast has all this experience launching rockets for 50 years, right? And the boats clearing out and the wildlife refuge that keeps people from getting into positions like this. And Boca Chica doesn't have that same experience that the Cape does. And that's sort of like a learning curve, isn't it?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, because when you don't have the military ranges, the ranges that are controlled by the military, yeah, it's you don't have the fences, you don't have that. I think sadly too, we saw last year people knowingly violate, not for Starship, but we did see people knowingly violate exclusion zones and safety zones just to try to get close to this hardware, thinking that because it's not military, they can push the boundaries and push the boundaries and push the boundaries when they can't. All these warnings are out there. I will also say, I hope that guy enjoys his fine, or whoever it was, because it ain't gonna be cheap.
And look at
because there is no way you didn't know, is my point. Right, there's no way you cannot know you're violating a road closure and something like that. So,
right,
yeah.
Mary still has the track on that truck. The truck got shooed away by the sheriff. We'll see if the sheriff is rolling up behind him. There is undoubtedly a sheriff waiting for them on the other end. And again, people are like, "Oh, it's a free country. Oh, I can be wherever I want." These are dangerous situations. It takes a lot of energy to get into space. It takes a lot of energy to get into orbit, especially a massive vehicle like Starship. They're really not playing around. We don't want somebody to say, "Oh, well, we didn't know. We were just out there." Really?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
very seriously.
Yeah. Well, I love your comment, Dawes. Like, it's a free country. I can go where I want. I'd love to see you try that at Area 51.
Right.
Look, nobody's gonna Naruto run out there towards the That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
Right.
Again, it's one of the reasons SpaceX chose Boca Chica. It is a very limited area out there. There's not a ton of public roads. It's not like there's a massive freeway that runs right by the launch site or anything like that. You got to work to get there. In fact, Highway 4, that Boca Chica Boulevard, is the only road that gets you out there to the village or the beach. There's not like 3 ways you can go and then another bridge. There's only one way to get there. So it's sort of a secluded location in the first place. And it's one of the reasons SpaceX chose this, as opposed to launching from, the suburbs of a city. Look at this. The Starships are going to be in the background.
There you go.
Oh, no. And keep in mind, Mary's got this long lens that she's zoomed in on this. So that truck may be a mile away from Mary right now. It is definitely inside the red zone where it is potentially not safe. Of course, SpaceX has done a really good job of putting these Starships right back down on the pad, but it's still, just in case anything happens, it's still an experimental program. Want to make sure that everybody is absolutely safe out there.
But I'm trying to get my bearings here. So that to me is very clearly not the beach access road or anything like that that's really, really close to the fuel farm or the vehicles. It looks like it's separated by water, a mile or so away, but still within the exclusion zone, crucially, but not like that raft that got carried by the other week.
Yeah, you got it. That's not the main road that goes out to Boca Chica. That is, I mean, it's either a dirt road or I don't even know that there's a road out there. There's got to be some sort of track or something like that, but definitely not a major thoroughfare. So, and I can check in real quick here. For the first time ever on our NASA Spaceflight channel, we have more than 200,000 people watching.
Very
Very
again.
nice.
Is that good?
Is that good?
Yes, Thomas, that's good.
Oh, correction, 202,000 people watching. Actually, 203,000 people watching. If you're new to the channel, this is what we do. We're an independent news organization. Been around for 15, 16 years. Started off covering space shuttle back in the day, but we're not new to this. We've been live streaming stuff from Boca Chica ever since Mary volunteered to load up a live stream camera almost a year ago. And we cover all sorts of spaceflight related topics. We've got remote cameras at Cape Canaveral, up at Wallops, Mars. I guess I could say Mars, but that just means Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport.
I know, but I love saying it that way.
I had a hat that says Mars on it. It's like, wait, what? We've done stuff from the Spaceport America, out there where Virgin Galactic runs tests. Of course, Boca Chica. Every single day we have videos coming from Boca Chica. Out at Vandenberg, if there's something cool going on, we cover it here on the NASA Spaceflight channel. Thank y'all so much for hanging out. I don't know how many of y'all are new to the channel or subbed. I don't know. Earlier when I mentioned, oh, if this is the sort of content you like, you can subscribe to the channel, and 5,000 people subbed all of a sudden. I'm not sure what would happen if 200,000 people were watching and we said, don't forget to like and subscribe, or whatever the kids think. I'm not sure. Anyways, NASA Spaceflight, thanks for watching. Is that good? Thomas, really? Did you say is that good?
Listen, I mean, I just got to make sure put everything into context.
Into context. Well, the good news is that some of our cameras are still online right now, so we've got that going for us, which is nice.
That's a bonus.
It is. I was looking at this massive venting happening, but it doesn't seem to be coming from the Starship. That is coming from those vent stacks that are out next to the Starship, but that big plume is not from the Starship itself. So.
No, but it looks very dramatic from that angle.
Yeah. Oh, I like this angle for the venting, Chris. It's such a great angle to see the venting from. Look at this, y'all. From the long-range camera, this is back at South Padre Island. This is about 6 miles away, a robotic camera that's deployed out there. And you can see the venting all the way from South Padre Island. Look at that. That is a significant amount of venting. All normal for the operation of the vehicle here. Not anything that we're concerned about or anything like that. Just watching what's going on. But now that we're not, now that we've stopped our episode of Cop Boca Chica, we've got Mary back on the Starships again. So hopefully that was not something that caused a massive issue. Make sure that range is safe. Hopefully we get back into some Starship venting, showing they're continuing putting propellant in the vehicle. There's no way we can read all the super chats and stuff like that. I'm sorry. There's just no way that we can do it.
A big thank you to everyone who sends their support our way, but yeah, I've lost the ability to acknowledge every single super chat a long time ago.
Yeah. There's no way. I've also been reminded not to mention the store, so we're not going to do that.
but I will say to everyone to thank you truly for all of the super chats. The super chats they go to our team, they go to our equipment, they go to our costs. The channel memberships go toward all of that sustainability as well, so that we can afford to bring you all of this. And even watching that advertisement at the beginning of the video, that really helps us too, more than we can say. So truly thank you to everyone, no matter how you support us, whether it's watching or a membership or super chat or all of it. Thank you very much. It really is. I sound like a broken PBS record, public broadcasting over here in the US, when I say it really is like from support from viewers like you that we can do this, and we love doing this. So the fact that you enjoy us doing that and want to support our coverage and us bringing you this content, it really, truly means a lot to us. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We could not do this without y'all's support. So every single stream, we try to get better coverage, better cameras, more angles, better technology on the back end, just across the board. We really do appreciate y'all showing up and supporting everything that we do here. We're glad you enjoy it. Whew. And again, you can see it from this angle. If you look at it from the beach, it almost looks like that's coming from Starship, but that's why we have so many different angles. Those are just the normal ventings occurring from those little sticks that sort of stick up there. That's the technical term. I just came up with that.
The little sticks that stick up there. I like that. Is that venting from the bottom of Starship? We are back into propellant, are we not?
It looks like it could try.
Well, all right. There is one piece of the tank farm that kind of spews vapors in both directions, so it might just be that.
I'm talking about it's coming down from Starship, and it's on multiple angles.
Is it?
Yeah.
Underneath.
Underneath, not to the side, like directly underneath. Yeah.
You can see it right there.
Yep, I see it now. Okay, I see what you're talking about.
Yeah, so we're prop loading, so 25 to 30 minutes, roughly.
That's what you want to see.
Yeah. Based on our spreadsheet. Ha 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 ha.
We're going to be looking for more venting coming from the vehicle and then looking for that engine chill down. We call it the tri-vent, where 3 big vents all sort of go off in each direction, symmetrical around the base of the vehicle. That is another big milestone that we're coming up here, because once we see that, we know that we are 10 minutes away, 12 minutes away from launch. Like 11 minutes and 53 seconds. It's ridiculous how accurate the spreadsheets are these days. But we are going to continue watching. It's really obvious that Starship itself is venting from underneath the skirt right now. Remember, if you've seen like a normal rocket and you see the engine sort of sticking out of the back of the normal rocket, Starship doesn't work that way. The end of Starship, the bottom of Starship, is actually a skirt. It's like a hollow area, and the engines are tucked up in there. So there are 3 Raptor engines on Starship SN9 right now, but you can't see them because they're sort of hidden up in there. And they do it that way so that they can stack a Starship on top of another larger rocket called a Super Heavy booster. So the Super Heavy is supposed to go underneath this part. This is the upper stage of the rocket.
Yeah, that's stage 2.
And it's like...
Yeah, a good way to think about it in terms of like how the vehicles are built, right? So on the Falcon 9, right, when the 2 stages separate, the interstage stays with the first stage, right? And as the stage is separated, it exposes the engine on the second stage. But that works for the Falcon 9, but it doesn't work for Starship, because Starship has to come back in and land. So those engines have to be protected from the heat of atmospheric reentry, and then protected from the aerodynamic forces as you're belly flopping toward the ground, right? And then they have to reignite to do the flip and burn landing for the system. So in this case, you just kind of have to think of it as the reverse of the Falcon 9. The interstage stays with the second stage and then serves as both a heat shield and an
It's 7:45
stabilization and protection area for the engines inside of it.
I was trying there for a second to get the pirate ship seems to be going out.
We apparently forgot to put the glasses on the camera so it could focus properly, right? Oh, it's Hubble again. We have to send the rescue shuttle.
Shuttle up there to put contacts on the long-range camera. Apparently the pirate ship is going out again. At some point, we'll get live stream from that pirate ship. We'll make it happen. I don't care what we have.
Well, at what point do we just realize that the pirate ship is range security? Like,
or it's Elon's personal viewing platform. We can't discount that.
Oh, it's like a fun charter thing you can do. South Padre Island is a massive spring break destination down there in South Texas, and apparently you can go for rides on the pirate ship. Here's another great shot of it going by. A little ridiculous, but we'll take it. It sort of fits the theme today. That's what happens if you get a boat on the range. They chase you down in that thing. I'm kidding. I made that up. That's not true. I can't. Oh, that's 213,000 people. Please don't believe me. That's not actually accurate.
According to DOS.
Yeah, DOS said, they said it on the live stream. The NASA live stream said that the pirate ship was range security. Then all of a sudden, like, Twitter is just an absolute cluster. So, again, folks, we have vapors coming from the bottom of Starship SN9. That is a sign that they're putting propellant in the vehicle. So we are watching Starship SN9. It's the Starship on the right. What a problem to have. And coming up, we should probably start to see some condensation.
I was going to say a frostering should start to form, right?
Yes, absolutely. So we'll keep
maybe a couple of like little light puffs of vents here and there, but not like the sustained one we saw earlier, which was clearly an early in the process abort.
Yep.
Yeah. And again, remember, for those of you who are just joining us, I know many of you have heard this before, but for the thousands of you who have joined us since the last time we said this, you want to keep your eye on the Starship on the right-hand side of your screen with its flaps out, like it's exercising. The one that looks like it's all tucked in and going, don't look at me, don't look at it. That one's not doing anything, even though it's the one with all of the vapor and the moodiness around it. It's actually the other one we want to keep our eye on today. That is SN9, and that is the one that will do our 10-kilometer test flight here, potentially within 25 minutes or so, based on the timeline that we've been seeing.
Methane vent.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, there we go.
Ah, there we go.
Grab that from the beach angle. A little bit of a vent. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yep. Look at that methane vent.
You can see we were setting up for the launch and landing there on the beach.
Yeah, I have to check the focus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to check the focus to make sure it's perfect. And I was trying to do that when that happened, but
Yeah, sorry about that, Michael. I said I wasn't going to do it, and then the methane vent, so I
saw that and I immediately moved it back. So we're good.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, now I'm going to do it.
Okay, now you're going to do it. Okay, now go ahead. Okay. Again.
All right.
we're
Yeah,
standing by. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I just kind of want to read out a tweet that Michael Baylor sent out a minute ago, because based on the spreadsheet, the tweet that Michael just sent out, that the countdown has resumed, basically based on the spreadsheet, it looks like it's 2:25 p.m. Central, so 19-ish minutes from now. Based on what we got, of course, plus or minus a couple minutes. That's not gospel. That's just what we're aiming for. So just under 20 minutes is what it looks like if it's all on track and there's nothing unplanned that causes them to hold.
And a reminder, this is of course only the second time we're having this kind of flight, but unlike the static fire tests where a 10-minute siren is sounded, since the village has been evacuated and there are no residents there to warn with a siren, there's no 10-minute warning siren like we get with static fire tests.
Right.
There's a siren though for the people up the road, I think.
Wait, really?
Yeah, Mary said on the last attempt they had a siren. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I thought we heard it, yeah. And
Yeah.
All right, ignore what I'm saying. I missed a memo.
It's
village is
hey,
evacuated,
it's easy.
so- Again, I see the super chats keep coming in, y'all. We just have to give up on the super chats. There is not a snowball's chance that we can read all these super chats. So just across the board, I see so many kind words and questions. And here's Michael saying, been watching your channel for over a year when things were just started. Great job developing your in-depth streams. Best on YouTube. Michael Oberlander, thank you so much for that. Everybody else, the memberships and the super chats that are coming in, we really do appreciate you. Thanks for the coverage. Love the coverage. Great coverage. Can't wait. Just across the board. Love the coverage. Keep up the good work. Amazing coverage. Wow. Jeez. Just thank y'all across the board for everything y'all do to make this possible. So let's go back over there to that robotic camera. Again, to explain, we've actually designed some remote operated robotic cameras that are inside the danger zone. So this view that we see right here, and then another view that's from the side angle when we go over to the beach angle, these are robotic cameras that have a dedicated uplink, and we can actually log into them remotely and zoom them in and out, pan them around, tilt them and stuff, focusing. They're recording locally as well. So just in case we drop the uplink, they're still going to record what happens, assuming we've set that up correctly this time. Knock on wood, thanks SN8. But these cameras are not crewed by human beings. They are way closer than a human is allowed to safely be, just over a mile on both these other cameras here. So we do have crewed cameras as well. If we back off just a little bit more, this is Mary's camera angle. So Boca Chica gal, the original Boca Chica live streamer over a year ago, doing some of the first streams coming out of there, but she is out there chronicling every single day what's going on. If you're interested in the SpaceX Starship program and you want to keep up to date on what's happening, every day we do a bunch of time lapses. We've got the sun coming up and we've got them welding steel together and we've got them transporting things around. And a lot of those things we try to time lapse so that there's like 10 minutes of video instead of you sitting there watching all day. But you can sub to the channel right here, turn on the notifications, and you'll get notifications every single day for these videos that we literally every day we're editing a video and putting it up. It is a team effort of nonstop video production. As soon as one file is done and we're uploading it, it's already files for the next day getting uploaded because the internet out there is not fantastic. It's tough to upload these files, but every single day here on this channel, if you're not subbed yet, go ahead and click the subscribe button. Oh, look at that. What is this? 46,000 likes? Come on. Really? There's 225,000 people watching. Certainly we can get a couple more likes, like at least 47,000 maybe. I don't even know if that means anything, but anyways, whichever way.
That's just like forcing the numbers to change quickly.
True. And then I glance over and it's already above 50,000. I'm like, wait, what? Oh, now it's 52,000.
Yep, there you go.
God. Anyways, folks, however you're participating, however you're experiencing this, we're glad that you're able to join us. If you're sharing it, sometimes we get these awesome photos of people sharing it with their kids sitting in front of the TV. Maybe they sent it to their mom or their uncle, and they're like, you got to see what these crazy people are doing out there. Look at these Mars spaceships that are going to fly. And whatever you do, however you're a part of the community, we appreciate y'all hanging out with us here. Absolutely glad we're able to share this because it really is a cool program to follow, that's for sure. Whew. Have I missed anything, Thomas? Chris, I'm just sort of hanging in there right now.
Yeah, right now we're just continuing to stand by and observe the countdown taking place. Again, we think the launch may be for about 2:25 locals, just under 15 minutes, but that's a rough estimate. We're still waiting for the last couple of milestones in the countdown to take place, but we are getting close to a Starship SN9 flight attempt.
Absolutely. Oh, wow. It looks like there are two vents going on Starship now. You can sort of see two. We'll check the other angle in just a minute here. But we continue to see some progress. I think the big thing is watching for that tri-vent. The tri-vent is one of the most accurate predictors of T0 that we've got. It's weird because SpaceX doesn't give us an exact T0. They don't publish in advance, okay, tomorrow at 3 o'clock we're going to be trying this flight. They just say, hey, sometimes between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. we might get a chance to fly. Be prepared. So we have to watch what's going on, like individual valves that open on the tank farm and the exact things that are happening with the vehicle. All we can really do is stand by and practice our roadside rocket science here, watching the tanks. We've spent hundreds of hours doing this, I think, right?
Yeah, well... I think there's a spreadsheet that answers that question.
There is a spreadsheet.
Yes. No, I was going to say, I believe now, sorry, to that point, the next big visual milestone we're waiting for is the tri-vent, which would be the indication that engine chill down is underway, and that's about 12.5 minutes prior to an ignition and a liftoff if there are no holes, based on what we've observed. I think that's our next big visual milestone that we're expecting.
Right. And
which, to be fair, could be any minute now if based on what we saw when the methane vent occurred.
Yeah. Again, folks, we're looking at Starship SN9. It's the Starship with the flaps deployed, folded out right now. The one on the right, the Starship with the... What a problem to have, by the way. The Starship with the flaps sort of folded up in the stowed position on the left, that's SN10. And we're looking at the Starship with the flaps in the flight position on the right. That's SN9. That's the one that has actual clearance to fly today.
Here we go. Engine chill has started.
That's engine chill.
Ah, there we go.
To launch.
Very nice. Very nice.
So you see the vents on the back of Starship there. There's actually some venting happening at the back side, and that is what we call the tri-vent. That's the engine chill down, right, Michael?
Correct.
Super green. So we are continuing to progress. That is usually a very good indicator of a T0, and it's usually just under 12 minutes. So that would put us near 225. I don't know if anybody got
225-ish. Yeah, it's 225-ish.
Yeah. So 225-ish for the T0 there. But we are getting real. That is coming up on 10 minutes of flight. SpaceX trying to take this prototype Mars rocket and fly it up to 10 kilometers and then land it back on the pad. For a second there, I was like, wait, is that right? But I'm pretty sure it's right.
I know, right? We're so we're so used to saying 100 kilometers, 1,000 kilometers. Yeah, 10 seems small.
Or 200 meters or something like that, like 100 meters. So look at that. That is a very prevalent tri-vent now.
Yep.
So interesting.
Deep breaths, deep breaths.
You gotta sort of get the excitement out of your system. I am frantically clicking on things over here.
And we can see that frost line on the aft skirt of Starship SN9 forming now. If you're just joining us, the Starship on the right side of your screen on all of our camera angles is the one which we'll be launching today.
And I'm doing an audio check real quick. I'm going to try to bring up our live microphone. So let's see what we get from the audio check. Yeah, you can actually hear the wind blowing on that mic there.
Sounds good though.
Yeah, so that mic should be good to go. Again, this is exactly what we want to see, y'all. This is exactly what we want to see.
It's getting real.
Just look at all.
Gosh. Yeah.
It's like the calm before the storm. Maybe less than 10 minutes now, y'all.
I've got to rest my screaming voice.
You got to rest your screaming voice.
Well, yeah. I mean, I have to go, oh my God, it's doing it!
I'm going to check the corridor here. Let's see. So the spreadsheet is predicting a T0 of just past 225. So a few seconds past 225. The actual prediction is 225 in 10 seconds, plus or minus a few seconds. And then we also have the stream delay as well. But just after 225 on the clock, less than 10 minutes, coming up on 8 minutes based on what we've seen. Look, frost ring.
Yep.
Oh, look at that.
So down at the base of Starship SN9, about halfway up the bottom flaps, do you see the line that goes across the rocket down there? That is actually a line of ice that's forming. The propellants inside the vehicle are so freezing cold that they freeze the humidity in the atmosphere onto the outside of the rocket. It's not like your car where there's an internal fuel tank and then there's some space and there's the body of your car. And you don't have like gasoline right on the other side of your fender, right? Your car has two fuel tanks or a fuel tank that's separate from the body. On Starship, the body is the fuel tank. Right there on the other side of that stainless steel is where the cryogenic liquids are. It's liquid oxygen on the bottom. So that freezing oxygen liquid is touching that stainless steel, and the outside of that is super cold, and it's so cold it can freeze the humidity out of the atmosphere onto the side of the tank, forming ice like that. Did I do okay there with the explanation? I think I got it.
You did. I just had to smile because I was like, well, some of your cars have fuel tanks.
Oh. Well, Chris, the fender of your car is not the battery. Let's put it that way.
There we go. Exactly.
With Teslas.
NASA spaceflight, all inclusive to all types of vehicles.
Yes. Let's check it from the beach real quick. The shading here, the sun's sort of behind it, so this is a little bit tougher shot to get contrast on that, but it is go time. And it is. We're about to cross 250,000 people watching this live stream. On the one hand, I want to be like, no way, that's amazing. But on the other hand, it's amazing that that many people are interested in what's going on, right?
Very much so. Well, I mean, how often do you get to really understand that you're watching history, right? Most things when you go, oh, right, I was watching that when, right? And you only recognize it for the historical importance after the fact.
Yep.
It's rare that we get these types of things where you're watching something that kids are going to be reading about in history books one day.
Yeah. What is it? I tweeted like a little bit of a joke the other day, like, little roadside history markers, and it's like, on this day and whatever. And imagine, it's the year 2070, and the roadside marker says, on this spot in 2021, the first Starship, da-da-da-da-da. Like, it's just, at the end of the day, it is amazing that SpaceX has rekindled this sort of excitement and wonder of spaceflight. And so many people tune into broadcasts like this because it's inspiring. It's a little bit crazy. Look at these things.
It
They look
is,
like
yeah.
straight out of science fiction. But they're for real. It's not CGI.
Yeah.
It's not superimposed.
And just for your awareness, we are tracking good latency on the robots and good response.
Excellent. I was just recycling the long-range feed so that we would get it back in time. We'll see how the long-range feed holds. Jack, I'm having some trouble with Jack's feed, but at this point, I don't think we troubleshoot it. I think we just roll with it.
Is it going to be stable? Because if it has a high risk of issues, I will track on the other camera.
On the other camera, you mean track on the beach?
Yes, because the probability of me tracking it properly is higher from that camera, I think.
Your call on that. You can choose either robot to track with. Both of these robots are designed to be able to track, like point their camera straight up vertically, and that's your call. I'm getting barely any bandwidth from Jack, just all the people over there at South Padre hammering the cell towers. The long-range camera is looking okay. Of course, as soon as I click to it, we're going to leave this one wide so that we can get the entire flip maneuver in there. And then Mary's is 5x5 as well. Hayes is the biggest concern there because Mary is a safe distance away, but we're getting good data from her right now.
And I am going to move the beach into the launch configuration.
All right. Almost
because we should...
1,000.
Yeah, and if the clock is correct and we have not had, and they haven't had an unplanned hold, we're about 4 minutes out.
The one sign, we get a sign right before the actual ignition. Those tri-vents like stop for a second, right? That's kind of what we're looking for as a hint that it's about to ignite the engines.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is about 3 to 4 minutes away from launch, so good luck to Starship SN9, and hopefully this goes well.
Yes, indeed. Hopefully it does.
Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff going on here. I am going to bring up our microphone from Mary's camera. So Mary, if you can hear this, just be advised. I don't know if there are people talking out there, but we're going to start piping that into the stream here. That engine chill down is going like crazy right now. And watch what's going on there. You'll see a pause for a second, and you'll see a big spurt. And as soon as that big spurt happens, that is when we would expect to see liftoff or ignition of the engines. Again, the engines are going to check themselves, they're going to ignite, and they can shut themselves down. There's a lot that the vehicle could do automatically, but it's all going to happen in a hurry here. Starship does not sit around and play around whenever it's time to go, so keep an eye. You can see additional frost forming up on the top of the tank there as well. That entire tank is a slightly different color now.
Yeah. It really is, and we are under 2.5 minutes to go in the official count right now as SN9 continues to count down here.
Yeah.
And I'm just giving myself a bit of room to work with here.
Yep.
Take a second for Starship SN9. There's control latency, so I can't track it zoomed in all the way. That would be near impossible from my location. But that is going to be an awesome shot from that robot. I cannot wait.
Yeah.
And we are under 2 minutes at this point.
Under 2 minutes now. Nice.
Indeed, yes, under 2 minutes, counting smoothly. Approaching 90 seconds in the count.
Excellent.
And that marker has been passed under 90 seconds. Still counting. Again, getting very, very close.
60 seconds.
Watch for the tri-vents to pause, and then a big plume come out, and watch that plume. It's going to get sucked down to the ground if those engines ignite.
Indeed, and you can see the liquid oxygen ring on the header tank, under 50 seconds and counting now.
Yep.
So here is to a good flight, SN9.
30
Let's
seconds.
see what you do.
My heart is about to beat out of my chest right now.
My gosh, mine too.
We need to rig up a little heart rate monitor that displays on the screen.
Here comes the
All right.
engine chill purging that we see sometimes that are sputtering.
Yep.
Which means we are just seconds away from launch of Starship SN9. About 10 seconds.
We have had a hold. We have had a hold. And we are counting again, 10 seconds and counting.
There's the big
ignition.
And lift off. Oh, it lifted off.
Wow.
Wow, look at that. Oh, go, baby, go.
Sounds good. Hit the camera here.
So everything, so 90 seconds into the flight, everything's still nominal according to
Okay, so there's a shutdown the first of the 3 Raptor engines as planned. Down the 2 Raptors now. Control the acceleration of the vehicles and it's lighter and lighter. Everything proceeding nominally at this time.
I had an awful lot of flight at the airport. I just never had a flight. I kept
I know.
it's like perfect.
Jack,
All right, and we are over 2 minutes into the flight. Things still going nominal.
other angle. Here's the Paris angle. There.
The next major event we can expect is the shutdown of the next Raptor.
I don't think they can hear us,
one
Chris.
going up. I don't think so either, but I'm going to keep trying just in case. Look at this.
That audio is absolutely annihilating anything we're trying to say. I'm going to back it off just a little bit here.
All right. We are approaching the 3-minute mark into the flight. All is still normal, according to callouts. Again, the next thing we should see is the shutdown of that second engine as expected, leaving just one of them on to continue the final push up to the 10-kilometer apogee.
And there it is.
Highest point.
Shut
There
down
it is.
One engine. As expected, that's normal.
Yep.
All right.
looking on Mary's camera there. That's absolutely fantastic. Jack got it as well. I can't show them all.
Yep.
This is amazing, y'all.
And the team confirms that was a normal and on time and nominal engine shutdown.
Right now, SN9 is now making the final ascent up to that 10-kilometer apogee. Well, when that final engine shuts down, it will reorient for the descent.
Which should be coming up momentarily.
The amazing thing is that it's still on the robot. That is on the robot at the village, and Michael is basically looking straight up the back end of SN9. Look at that.
Great tracking there, Michael. And again, so we will see a reorientation. Vehicle is at 10 kilometers.
There's Mary's shot. Just so many different angles on this.
So they are hovering in the air right now, holding altitude at 10 kilometers.
Yep.
And here they go, preparing for the handover on the propellant tank. And there we go, the reorientation to the belly flop.
And we go.
And here we go.
Oh, no way. It's like a skating trick. What's going on here?
Oh my lord, here it comes.
So this is Mary's angle right here.
Yeah. Now
There's
remember,
Jack's angle from South Padre. You can see the flaps actuating.
yes indeed. Now remember, this is subsonic, and this is the belly flop descent under aerodynamic control of the aero surfaces. Look at that shot.
It's insane.
Look at that shot. Starship appears to be very stable in its belly flop.
Looks good.
Yep. I mean, Mary is doing an absolutely.
Oh my gosh, it's immensely stable. This is.
Alright, now this is the part where SN8 reached successfully as well. The next step will be that landing flip maneuver, hoping for a better outcome on SN9's flight. Again, this is still all a test flight, but hoping for some extra progress on this flight.
It looks like it's
And
coming
remember
down
too,
on
they
top of the robot. Look at
and
this.
remember, oh yeah, and a very very stable. This is wonderful. Again, test flight. SpaceX might have changed a few things, so let's see what this landing looks like. 2-engine reignition and a flip and burn.
Look at this. It's pointed not exactly right at Mary, but Mary can see all 3 Raptors in the bottom.
All right, here we
That's a
go.
great
We should be getting close here now.
That's amazing. Look at the ice.
Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go. There we go.
And the flip looks like they lost a piece there.
Oh.
Ow.
Oh. Woo!
Wow. Stand by for audio.
Yeah, I'm not having great control, but I'm trying to get the camera pointed there. There we go, I got it.
I imagined you weren't having great control.
I tracked it the entire way.
I know. I was watching.
I think I left the frame for maybe a second.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
In here, you're going to
It's
go, right? Your robot's
8:50.
going to go, Michael?
Yep.
Okay, so one of the
Look at that, there's
Raptors.
debris falling on the left.
There is debris falling down.
Yeah.
Past SN10.
Past SN10, yeah. So the first Raptor ignited successfully. The second Raptor did not start successfully. That I just rewound part of the feed, and you can clearly see the first one come up, beautiful shock diamonds. The second one ignites, and it's haywire, and the vehicle's on its and the vehicle's upside down.
It does
At
go
that
to
point.
the beach.
Got it. I'm on it.
Yep. I'm trying
There's
to
a
zoom in
fire
much.
out there.
We still have more zoom, so we'll take a look at that. But
Yeah.
it looks like SN10 is okay from what I can see from here. We'll have to see from the other angles, but it doesn't look like there is too much damage at the launch site. So
No.
overall, not a bad result.
Yeah.
Not
No,
as good
very,
of a- They were obviously hoping for more progress in that based on SN8, but far from a worst case scenario we just saw.
Well, and to be fair, it didn't. I mean, it didn't look like the engines had the same issue they did last time. So it will be interesting to see what they say. What they say what was the issue, because one lit perfectly. It was awesome. Like,
again, y'all, if you're wondering what just happened, we saw the flight of SN9. It lifted off. It's no longer there on pad B. Flew up to 10 kilometers, did a fantastic belly flop maneuver, nice and stable on the way down, but during the flip back to horizontal to land on its tail, it looks like, Chris, one of the Raptors might have not have ignited there. There was some sort of issue. Actually, debris came out right around the time it was trying to do that flip, and it did not maintain control and crashed into the landing pad much more quickly with a lot more force than SN8 did. So it is down. There were no people around. There were no people riding the rocket. A lot of people are like, oh, was there anybody on that Instagram, right, Chris?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And that's why I say it'll be interesting to see what the issue was on this one. Visually different, in that the issue appeared to be at the start of the second Raptor on the flip and burn landing there. But yeah, I mean, it demonstrated its ability to launch successfully. It demonstrated its ability to reorient in the atmosphere. It once again is just mind-bogglingly rock solid on the descent. So yeah, it looks like it's the flip and burn, something in the flip and burn time frame that got them, not necessarily the actual flip, but we'll have to see, because maybe it was just the Raptor that had the issue, right? And we'll have to wait and see, because remember too, it's not just a experimental vehicle. The engines are new too. These are brand new engines, and Thomas, help me out. They're full flow combustion cycle engines.
You got it.
Ooh, yay, memory. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll wait and see. Like I said, to be very clear, as we've said multiple times again, as we've said multiple times, and it is worth repeating, these types of things are successes in the commercial industry because they can reveal problems with your vehicle, because commercial side can afford to test like this, right? Whereas government agencies can't, when you're talking about taxpayer money. So it is nice to see it's not necessarily a failure. Just got to figure out what it was and pick up and move on.
Yeah,
as you're developing it. Yeah,
absolutely. I was not able to show it, but I am pulling footage off the beach robot, and it was an absolutely insane angle. So I'm going to try to get some of that. Again, y'all, we're going to be taking all of this footage and rolling it into a summary video, all the different angles. I had 5 different angles that I was able to see, and I was just choosing them one at a time based on what was going on. But we recorded all of those. We had the long range camera way out here, and this was set to capture the entire maneuver, and it looked absolutely fantastic. So, okay, I'll admit really quickly, I was very confused. The launch happened, and I'm looking over here, and then I'm changing to this camera, then I'm checking the status and looking at the
and it's
back. And I glanced over at one of the cameras, and I'm like, oh no, the feed is frozen. Starship is still on the pad. It was SN10. I'm frantically trying to refresh the feed because the Starship hadn't gone anywhere, but one of the Starships had gone somewhere. It was just me being silly, not realizing that there should be 2 of them out on the pad, not just 1. So, anyways, again, a hard landing. SN9 did not survive that flight. Hard landing puts it lightly, but beach robot is probably the best angle there on what happened.
An inverted, hard, inadvertent disassembly landing.
Again, folks, hey, I'm going to say this. I want people to understand this doesn't mean that Starship's a failure. This doesn't mean that, shut everything down for 1 year while they try to figure out what the safety issue was. That's not what this means. This is an experimental program. SpaceX is pushing the boundaries of what's possible here. flipping a skyscraper sideways as it falls out of the sky and then landing it on its end. This doesn't mean, oh, wow, ship it home, forget this, Starship's not going to work. This means that SpaceX is going to look at the data and see what happened and turn back around and got another one. You see that?
It's right there. Look.
It's like, I'm next. What?
They've already cloned it.
They have another one standing by.
And unlike SN9, it didn't faint.
Yet.
Yet.
It didn't faint when SN9 came hauling down, you know?
So Scott Manley has a tweet with one of the SpaceX cameras, and you can see the one engine tried to ignite, and then debris came flying out of it. So it had some issues starting up, and that's what caused the anomaly.
Yeah, there you go.
Of course, and again, all right, we're going to venture into speculation at this point. Hopefully, that would mean that the issue was limited to the engine itself and not the rest of the Starship vehicle, because that would mean that in SN10 they can look for whatever that issue was in those Raptor engines they're about to install, and that should be a relatively quick turnaround for an SN10 test flight if the issue is limited to the engine. So we'll have to wait and see.
Absolutely. So we're going to continue the live coverage here, folks. We will continue to answer some questions and stuff like that. You can also, rewind and stuff. I'm going to be working on getting some tweets. Jack's going to be getting some photos. Mary's going to be uploading some stuff. And we will be showing some of that on the screen here. So if you want to keep on keeping on, don't go anywhere. We're not done. That was an absolutely fantastic flight. Again, proving the profile. It works. Yeah. It's stable, but it falls.
It is. I want to mention one quick thing. I know we're not going anywhere. But I need to step off for just a second. But I do want to mention to people that spaceflight is a global thing, and our eyes are everywhere. And in 5 minutes, there's a launch from Russia of a classified military satellite. So as we continue to talk about SN9, just note halfway around the world, something's going to space today.
Nice. You said that was a military satellite?
It is. It's a classified military satellite, or one of those like quasi-classified ones, because we kind of know what it looks like, and we kind of know it's a signals intelligence satellite, and we know where it's going, but it's still like we don't talk about it type thing. And it's going up. It's from Russia, and it's replacing some of the older military signals intelligence constellations that are left over, or that were begun rather in the Soviet era.
Gotcha.
And it is launching from Plesetsk in 4 minutes.
In 4 minutes? Nice.
Yes, but because it's military and it's classified, there's no live stream, so we can't bring it to you. But yes.
Well, I don't think I'm going to be trying to deploy a robotic camera to Russia. Thank you.
Hey, no.
And I'm actually pulling the footage off the robots right now. So, Michael,
cool.
You did an absolutely fantastic job of tracking that thing on that robot.
That was, all the whole team did an absolutely incredible job of that. Yeah.
Right, Chris? We deploy all these cameras, and I started joking around. It's like, hey, if half the cameras stay live, we're good. All the cameras were live, and I was having trouble picking which one to show because every single shot was absolutely fantastic. So, massive thanks to the entire team for the work they did out there.
It is. Go ahead, Michael.
We got good practice from SN8, so we had a lot of data on things to improve, and like with the camera tracking, there was probably like 10 or 20 improvements that were implemented this time around to reduce the likelihood of me doing what I did last time, which was have the camera with the rocket in frame about 50% of the time. Today was about 99.9. I think it was like 1 or 2 seconds I lost it for.
Yep.
So,
we'll keep getting
better.
If this is the sort of stuff you like to see, we do this on a regular basis, not only from Boca Chica, but from any place that we can get to that launches rockets. Let's put it that way. Any place we can get to that launches rockets, we bring live coverage like this. And one of our big things is having our own camera feed. So it's one thing to sort of, let's put a talking head on the screen and talk over the official feed or something like that. We are able to use y'all's support to roll out cameras to a lot of different things and bring you a unique perspective of the experience that's going on. That's sort of what we try to do. So make sure before you leave, before you go anywhere, subscribe to the channel here. We do daily video updates on what's happening with Starship and Boca Chica. We do time lapses if you're interested in the SpaceX recovery ships. We have some fantastic video from our fleet cam over at Port Canaveral. And just across the board, we try to share what's going on with spaceflight with people everywhere. Chris, I know you said you had to go, and then I didn't actually say you were going.
Oh, I just have to step off for a second. Okay. That's all. That's all. No. I'm not like go. Just step off for a second. But yeah, if we're good to cover all, I can step off for a second.
Yeah. All right. Well, good deal. Thomas, are you still here?
I am here, and I'm just laughing at Michael's newest tweets, which just says Starhopper is forever immortal. Which is just true.
If you could take over for me just a little bit here, I am loading up all of our video from all the robots to the server, if you could handle people real quick.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know. You normally I just read a bunch of super chats or something, but I mean, just to kind of reiterate what everyone else is saying, there's hopefully not too long of a turnaround for SN10. Of course, the big thing we'll be looking at least I'm interested in, is making sure that there was no damage to anything else near the launch site, either around the landing pad or, of course, to SN10, or even the SN7.2 test tank, which is also there. But hopefully all of those are A-OK. They'll obviously have to clear the landing pad prior to SN10 flying, so SN10 has a place to attempt to land. But yeah, again, this is kind of got the exact same sort of time into the flight before the failure as SN8 did. It was that landing burn that got it. And based on that video, it did look like it was a Raptor engine problem. Of course, last time was a header tank issue, so hopefully unrelated, and it's just a different problem related to the specific engine, because that would mean they've progressively solved one issue with the Starship vehicle. But yeah, so again, hoping that they'll get a lot of data. Well, obviously they will get a lot of data from this, but hoping that they can turn around and fly again really soon, because these flights are very exciting, and every time they lift one of these off the pad, they get closer and closer to nailing it. So.
Absolutely. And to reiterate, this is not a failure. This doesn't mean that Starship program is done. This is one of the many expected results that could have happened here. So SpaceX is going to use this data, and they're going to turn back around and continue pushing forward with the Starship program. But it is definitely... it looks so crazy when it's falling out of the sky. I don't know what else to say other than it looks crazy.
Yeah. I would rate this result as like a... not great, not at all bad though. I mean, it's
not
like
great,
a slightly.
not terrible.
I would categorize it as slightly negative. I mean, they were obviously hopeful to get farther than SN8, but like I mentioned a day or two ago, there's so many different variables that you can always get lucky on one test flight. Just because one test flight gets a certain distance does not mean that the next test flight will get as far. And we saw SN9 have trouble reigniting a Raptor engine, which is one of the highest risk criteria that Musk had hinted at. So not at all an unexpected result, even though it is slightly less far than SN8 got.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. Basically, SN9 did what I thought SN8 would do.
It's 8:30.
I literally tweeted that. I tweeted that.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I tweeted that
Great minds.
5 minutes ago. The exact tweet was Starship SN9 did exactly what SN8 was expected to do. So I guess we're on the same page here.
Yeah. Yeah, well, good. Great minds. There we go.
And again, to reiterate, and I love this quote that Elon posted, they put the crater in the right spot, which is, again, already pretty impressive. Obviously, they're going to look to start making that crater slightly smaller, and, you know, eventually there will actually be a crater. But, again, this is really good signs, and they're just going to have to tweak these hopefully small issues and keep iterating on that until they get it down to a more exact science, if you will.
I'm telling Jack and Mary that they're clear to shut down their feeds and start uploading stuff. I want to hop over to Jack's feed just really quickly. Oh, see, I kept losing this one. Hey, there you go, freeze frame. of
it's a replay.
Starship.
It's a replay.
Yeah, well, it's a very slow replay. It's like 1 frame per replay. So, anyways, I'll have to see if I can bring that back up. Let's not worry about that. I already told them that they were clear. But once again, Mary did an absolutely fantastic job of tracking that. Both Jack and Mary from both sides. It was like we had 3 different angles. We had the bot in the middle looking sort of straight up. Then we had Mary on one side, and we had Jack on the other side. In all 3 cameras, had the Starship in frame the entire time. It was absolutely insane. So once again, folks, massive thanks to Mary Bocachiga. She lives out there. She records video every single day, and she once again knocked it out of the park with the live view from the angle. I'm going to say like the right-hand angle there. Just absolutely positively the second time she's ever tracked a rocket launch and landing like that, and she knocked it absolutely out of the park. And then Jack over there from South Padre Island also doing an absolutely fantastic job. He was a lot further away, and he had that. We were fighting some bandwidth issues there, but we got some fantastic shots from him as well. And then Michael on the robot in the village. Michael, a couple times, that robot, I looked at it and I was like, is that coming straight down on the robot? It looked like it was coming straight down.
And the final, when it's in the belly flop, just before the entry burn, it looks like the Raptors are pointed straight at the robot.
Yeah.
I did not know that last time because I had lost the track by that point for SN9, and the camera only recovered its position at the very last second when we had a data uplink issue, so we lost that footage. But this time, we got that full video of the Raptors pointed straight at the village, which is kind of cool to see.
It's already on the video server. Like, we already exported that, and we can pull the raw if we need to, but the video recording server was already good to go, and it's already uploaded to the editing server.
It seemed like the connection was just rock solid. So whatever setup you built was amazing, because I had like full control of the camera the entire time. It wasn't even hard to track it.
Oh, jeez. Well, so you wrote the control software too. It's not like the out-of-the-box stuff. It's the custom software you wrote. So
it's optimized for launch tracking. It's not good at tracking anything else but launches or things that don't change direction quickly.
Again, folks, the NASA spaceflight team is exactly that. We've got so many different people that pitch in on these projects and help bring you the coverage. Michael writing software and operating the robot. We had Brady on the long-range camera, so Brady was zooming the long-range camera to the shots that we were looking to get there, and Brady wasn't anywhere near there. Brady's in Michigan, and he was controlling the camera at South Padre Island. Of course, Mary and Jack rolling out. They're there in person, so they're part of the team. In fact, we had the commentators, the Chris Gebhardt and Chris Bergen and Thomas and myself popping through. And then I'm sort of running live stream production. And then we've already got the videos uploaded to the place where Brady, the editor, can download it and then make edits to it and then do it in slow motion and frames by frame and this sort of stuff. So there's moderators that watch the stream and help us out with the stream, trying to keep everybody, I mean, sort of in line. I don't know. Not really in line, but massive thanks to the moderators as well. It truly is a team effort to get this stuff going. Especially, there's even people that you never hear of on the live streams. You'll never hear their name, but they're working projects on the side, the background, helping us get cameras and shipping things around. And I mean, we had to do our taxes too. Like, that was a thing. Apparently, right, Chris? You were doing that yesterday or something today.
I admit I tuned out. What'd you ask me?
I was talking about having to do our taxes. Yeah.
Sorry, I was actually writing you a message in our back channel, and then I heard, Chris, what do you think about that? I'm like, many things. Don't know.
Oh, it looks like we're starting to get those tweets in.
Yes, we do. No, but seriously, Das, what was the question?
Oh, no, it was just, it wasn't even really a question. It was just saying, you know, all the stuff we do, we even have to do our taxes. And
oh my gosh.
Our vendors that for us. Like,
flashback.
So I'm going to work on pulling some of these tweets and stuff. Let me control stuff to a safe monitor.
Yeah, tweets are starting to come in. Jack Bayer has epic shots of the liftoff of it pitching downrange in flight, and then let me see if I can recreate it, because a lot of people in chat and on Twitter are saying that I like perfectly captured the voice of Starship when it started to have its problem by going, oh. But Jack's got an epic shot of Starship in the bad inverted position with a bird watching. while in flight. It's amazing. Jack is amazing, but
just a bird.
And
and I'm getting set so I can bring up those tweets and stuff.
Yeah,
like that,
yeah. Of course.
What's left to say? I forget. What did we say?
I know.
What did we talk about after SN8 crashed? I forget.
I think we were just so amazed SN8 had done the flight profile in its near entirety, including being nearly vertical at touchdown. Well, I guess that is one thing. So the main difference that I saw with this test flight, beyond the obvious, ooh, one of the engines didn't light this time, Chris, is you really got the sense of how powerful those Raptors are in slowing the vehicle down, because even though we didn't have stable start on either of the Raptors last time for SN8, we did get start on both of them.
Yep.
And you could see how quickly it slowed the vehicle down. And then when you lost one, that's what sort of prompted our questioning of like, I wonder at what point in the landing sequence you could potentially lose an engine and still be able to recover. Well, I think we got the answer to that today, which is at startup, you don't, or at least not yet. It will be interesting to see, based on that data, if the Starships in the operational realm start to change that, if maybe you ignite all three as a precaution, or if you can't because of thrust considerations. But today what we really saw is the need for more than one on the flip and burn landing. And I think that's what today really, really showcased in the system, which is not a bad thing. Again, I mean, remember, this is only the second time something like this has flown, and SpaceX's testing motto is, let's build it and see what it does. Yeah, and if it does what we want it to, great. If we don't, let's fix it. One of the ways you can test these things. So yeah, I think that's what today really honestly showed me. I don't know if anyone else has a different takeaway or a big takeaway from today, but that's mine, definitely.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, okay. I was going to say echoing silence. Okay.
No, you're good.
Video, so y'all take it away.
I think it really depends on. I don't want to jump that just because you don't know why the Raptor failed to.